NFN, hockey, hockey de Estados Unidos y Canadá.
For you, want to see what your reaction is, what pathways you see to getting through, and your general thoughts on this big moment.
No, it was great to take part in it. Really, when you think about just what a big event the World Cup is, and then dial it back to the draw. I mean, they did it. It was massive. It was a huge event, really well done, and really exciting. Exciting to be with all of the coaches and talk to some of my colleagues, and then obviously see the draw. And it was amazing to get England in our group. I think that's a game that always has a lot of attention around it because of England and their fans and their established place in soccer. And then we have Iran, which is a difficult opponent, given they've finished first in their group in qualifying in Asia, the first Asian team to qualify, besides Qatar. Scored a lot of goals, dangerous team, and then the unknown of Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine. And Scotland and Wales are pretty similar in terms of how they're approaching the game, but then Ukrainian is completely different. So some challenges there, but overall positive. Looking forward to competing.
Next to me, Brian Strauss from Sports Illustrated.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Greg, good to see you again. On the surface, it seems like you and Gareth Southgate may be kind of kindred spirits in a way, presiding over sort of a generational change. You guys both care a lot, talk a lot about culture, care a lot about culture. What's your relationship with him like? And do you kind of see some, despite the status of the individual teams in some ways in the world, do you see some similarities between the way you guys approach things?
No, absolutely. And, Gareth was the first person I reached out to outside of former U.S. coaches. And the reason why is because I saw a lot of synergies or similarities between, the team that he took over and the team that we took over. We knew it was going to be a new generation of players coming through. We knew we were going to be working with a very young group. I thought it was important to establish a strong culture within the team. And I picked his brain early on in 2018, end of 2018. As soon as I got hired, my first trip over, I met with him and we talked at length, and we stayed in touch ever since then. I consider him an excellent coach and have a lot of respect for what he's done with the program.
Next will be Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, you kind of alluded to this in your opening comment there. You play England second. There's a chance you play Wales or Scotland. Facing a British team potentially in the first game, how much might that help playing England just from a style point of view, the way they're going to approach it? Curious if you could touch on that. Thanks.
I think England has a ton of quality, right? Their team, is 5-6. If you look at their right backs alone, I mean, it's insane. Right, you start with Trent Alexander-Arnold, you go to Trippier, you go to Kyle Walker, you go to Reece James. I mean, you're going Wan-Bissaka. They have 5 right backs that are playing at some of the biggest clubs in the world. So they're a different animal as far as I'm concerned in their player pool depth. I also think their style of play has evolved a lot, and so I wouldn't make too many comparisons. Wales is a solid team. We played them before. You guys saw that friendly, and they were a difficult team. They're missing Gareth Bale in that game and a couple other players. So that's going to be a difficult game if Wales happens to go through. And Scotland is always difficult with their spirit and the way they approach the game. And then, as I mentioned, Ukraine is a totally different type of opponent. But we want to get off to a good start in the World Cup. That's always key is doing well in your first game. So we'll be prepared and try to win the first game.
Thanks, Greg.
We'll go to Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hi, Greg. If you look at it, the political implications of a matchup against Ukraine, drawing attention to the game, is that good or bad for you guys, or neutral? And playing the first day and having probably 6 days of training with the whole group, assuming a bunch of guys have Sunday games, is that hard to deal with? Or given what you've had the last 7 months, is that simpler to deal with?
Well, it makes it easier that we did it the last 7 months for sure, but it's challenging. You know, when I was talking to some other coaches, they were hoping they were in the later groups, that they got up to 12 days of preparation before their first game. So I think it does make a difference. It's not the end of the world. We are used to it, and you have to deal with what comes your way. In terms of the political implications of the game versus Ukraine, what I would say is if Ukraine makes it there, it's a wonderful accomplishment. You know, I think if the people of Ukraine can get some hope by their team playing in the World Cup, you know, it's amazing. And I think it will be more of a celebration in my eyes than political ramifications. I think, you know, we're all pulling for Ukraine. We're all behind them. We're all supporting them. And we hope that, the situation resolves or as soon as possible.
We'll go to Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Greg. Hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up okay. I'm down here in Costa Rica still, so it's a bit shaky.
Or you're visiting family?
No, I'm visiting family here. You just rattled off the right back depth chart, 5 deep for England. I think it speaks to the familiarity that Americans have with English football, the access to the Premier League. You also have players playing over there. You have Eunice and Anthony who grew up in that system and are familiar with those players. How much does that familiarity help, not just in preparing perhaps tactically for you, but in maybe taking away any sort of intimidation factor that might exist with such talent, you know, that might have been there against a Brazil or an Argentina or France, and maybe isn't as strong against England because of that familiarity? Thank you.
I think that's a good point, Paul. I really do. Most Americans are familiar with all of England's squad. I think it puts a bigger target on England's back because they're the biggest league in the world and they have some of the most famous players in the world. Some of our players are playing in the Premier League, are playing alongside these players, are teammates with these players. Others are competing against them. So overall, I think it's a positive draw. I mean, it's not taking anything away from the quality. They still have a ton of quality. They're still a really well coached team, and they're still a very good team. But I think that does help somewhat that you're very familiar with them.
Next will be Grant Wall.
Hey, Greg, good to see you. I hope you're hanging in after all the travel. I wanted to ask about friendlies coming up and wondering, will this draw influence the friendlies you schedule for, I assume it's June and September. And is that already in the process right now over in Doha with finalizing those friendlies?
Definitely. Tom King has been talking to teams. I just got a text a couple of minutes ago about teams he's spoken to, and we would try to craft it somewhat based on who we have in our group and then who we can cross over with when we eventually get out of our group. So those two factors will come into play. And then it's just trying to get the opponents that match up with them pretty well. And then it's always, it's always going to be different. It's not an exact science. It's not like the science. It's not like if you play Saudi Arabia, that's an exact replica of Iran, but it will help, I think, with the familiarity with the body types, the athletic types, I think can only help.
We'll go to Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Greg. A couple preparation questions. One is, the fact that you don't know exactly who you're going to play in that first game, how much does that kind of complicate your preparations? And I was wondering if you could dig in a little bit more to your plans for the Nations League. Are you going to bring in the full squad for that? I mean, you mentioned the other day that there's never enough time. So I'm just wondering if you're trying to maximize your time in that way.
Yes, I've already spoken to the group, and it's about, we're going to need them for those 2.5 weeks in June. That's just how it goes, because we're only going to have, maybe 10 days in September, and that's it. The World Cup, we had plans to go to Dubai a week before with the entire team. I don't think that's going to happen, because a week before our first game, we have to be in Qatar 5 days before your first game, and that's basically when the guys are released from their clubs. So a little bit of change of plans based on when we're playing, but we'll deal with it. But it does make June important, and it makes September important. Guys need to be available for that. They need to be involved in that if they want an opportunity to compete in the World Cup.
Next will be Daniel Nora from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
Hey, Daniel.
I have a couple of questions. The first one, are you expecting to send a scout team for that European playoff in June? And the other one is if in the conversations with other coaches, maybe some FIFA members in Qatar, the idea of bringing 26 players in the roster have been in the last days, in the last hours, or you expecting to go with 23? I don't know what are they planning for the World Cup.
No, there's been discussions. We had a coaches meeting today, and I'm not going to get into it specifically, but there were discussions around roster size and prelim roster sizes. That was a discussion. And, you know, I don't know what stage it's at now. I don't know how it's going to get, how they're going to progress that conversation that we had, but there definitely was a conversation around that. What was your other question, Daniel, your first part
About scouting.
Oh, yeah, about scouting. You know, we'll be playing them, so it won't be someone with the direct coaching staff, but we will send someone there. We will get footage of those games. Yes.
Next will be Nancy Armour from USA Today.
Hey, Greg, thanks for doing this. I'm wondering, with having such a short window between when the guys are released and when your first game is, how important is it that you've had such a large pool of players that you've worked with over the last 2 years? They've all gotten to know each other. They've all built cohesion. You won't have to kind of do that on the fly when you get there. So I'm wondering how important that is.
Yeah, the team culture side of it is important, and it's a strong group. It's a tight knit group, and you know we've been intentional about how we've been forming these relationships over these last 3 years, and the team's in a good spot when it comes to that. You know, we'll never have enough time on the field, which is a shame, but that is what it is, and we're going to have to be really effective in these weeks in June, and then when we get together in September, because you know, when we get to Qatar, it's basically prep for a game, and you go from there.
We'll go to Charlie Bone from MLSsoccer.com.
Hi, Greg. The political elements of the possible Ukraine matchup are one thing. Iran is quite another. I know you weren't on the team at that time, but the '98 meeting certainly had a lot of overtones there. And I wonder if you could speak on your memories of that, watching that during your own playing career, and how that complicates possibly matters for your team.
Yeah, you know, I was asked at length about that with the international press just a while ago in the mixed zone. And, you know, I remember that well. I was actually doing a commentating for a Dutch TV station when I was in Holland. I ended up being an alternate on that team and went to the pre-camp and didn't go to France. But I think the point is, you know, that was, I think, the first time we competed against them. Michael, is that correct?
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and you know, coming off of political tension between the two countries and the governments and stuff was, you know, it was a way to say, you know, us on the soccer field, we're still friends. So we're, you know, no matter what's going on with the governments, you know, we can be friends. And I think since then, you know, I'm not sure the tension is what it is. And if we were friends back in '98, you know, 24 years later, you know, I don't see it any differently. I think, you know, we have a ton of respect for Iran and their team. And, you know, we don't see them as rivals. We see them as colleagues and two teams that are competing in the World Cup and trying to do well for their country in the World Cup.
Thanks.
Yep.
Greg was correct. That was the first time that we played against Iran.
Thank you for fact checking that, Mike.
I wasn't going to get it wrong again. Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Greg. I should say the seat at the table here for Nancy where I'm sitting in Minneapolis. You know, about England, you mentioned it a little bit at the top, you know, the cultural resonance that English soccer has in this country, the popularity of the Premier League, popularity of the English national team, in a lot of ways, even more than American soccer in some ways. You know that as well as anybody, I'm sure. You know, what is it going to mean for you to lead the United States against England in a men's World Cup? And, you know, I realize you don't want to put a ton of on the bulletin board, but maybe say a little something, you know, be able to stick up for soccer in this country a little, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly right. You hear Jesse Marsh and some of his comments about what he has to go through, and I think at some point it's almost like too much, right? You're an established coach, you do really well, and you're not treated like that. Whereas if he was from somewhere else, from Portugal, for example, he'd be treated completely differently. And Bob Bradley the same way. I know that there is a lot of respect for American soccer, but I think this is an opportunity. For sure, this is an opportunity for us to show what we're made of. And, they have a good team, but so do we. We have a young team. We have an athletic team. We have a team that doesn't have a lot of fear. And, that it's going to be a great game. And I think even for the fans, to be so familiar with their players, their household names, and then to see us match up against them, I think will provide some context, and it'll be, I think, really interesting for the fans as well.
Thanks.
Apologies, 1 second. Lost my list here for a moment. Next will be Mark Ziegler.
Hi, Gregg. I wanted to ask you, your first two opponents are European teams. Obviously, you don't know the first one, but the second one will be European as well. The United States has historically struggled against European teams in the World Cup. I think the only win since 1990 is against Portugal. You'd know that. You were there. Why do you think the U.S. has struggled against European teams, and what has to sort of change technically and tactically to reverse that?
Well, I think, traditionally European teams are very strong. And that's just how it is, right? And so when you play them in a World Cup, it means they got through European qualifying, which means they're very good teams. And, I could see a lot of teams struggling with that. So, I wouldn't read too much into that. But if that's the case, what you said about us not winning against European teams or only beating one, that's a great challenge for our guys. That's a great opportunity. And, there's always opportunities to be the first team or do something that teams haven't done. And for us, we just look at each opponent, we analyze their strengths and weaknesses, and we try to figure out how to beat them. And it will be no different there. But really looking forward to the group. I think it'll be an exciting group. I think it's going to be a group that comes down to the last game to see who gets in, and hopefully we'll be right in there.
Thanks.
Next will be Emily Olson.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Gregg. On a personal note, we saw Didier Deschamps on the draw. Just a question, if you had a chance to interact with him at all, now that you're in a similar position of having been a player and now a coach going to the World Cup, at all able to interact with him? Otherwise, what's it like to now be in that position?
No, we were, we just had a coaches meeting for 2 hours where we're all interacting, and he was in it, and it was nice to get to talk to him and see him. But this is a guy that's won a World Cup as a player and won a World Cup as a coach. There's a huge difference between us, but it's an honor. It really is. I mean, my love for U.S. soccer and my commitment to U.S. soccer started when I was a young kid, and I was fortunate enough to be able to play for the national team in a World Cup, and now really fortunate to be able to coach a team in a World Cup. And it's a humbling feeling, but it's also a feeling of tremendous pride. And we desperately want to do well for our fans, for our public, for our country, and that's why we put in the work we do, and that's why we're so excited to be back at the World Cup.
We'll go to Paul Kennedy from Soccer America.
Gregg, all the European teams will have Nations League in June and in September. Will you try to get a game right on the edge of the window like you did last year with Switzerland, or is that just too difficult considering you have 4 games in June also?
No, we can't we won't add a 5th game. There could be a potential to add someone in the beginning of that window like you're talking about, and we just have to see how that works. The issue is going to be we're going to be stateside, and it's just figuring out the opponent. There's a good opportunity to play a strong South American team, and then trying to figure out what that next team looks like, whether that's an African team or an Asian team to kind of round it out. So we'll see how that works. And then September, we have to be targeted with who we pick, because you're running out of opportunities, and most likely we'll look for two opponents that match up with us well.
We do have Weston McKinney standing by, so we will finish with Gregg and Andrew Jones.
Thank you, Michael. Gregg, first I want to talk to you and Michael about the travel schedule as Gregg and Little that you two have undergone from Costa Rica to DC and now to Qatar, as well as your thoughts, as you mentioning Iran and going in that coaches meeting in regards, you had Ali Dia on stage, and if you had a chance to talk to Iran's manager with the quality that they have with Sadr Samoun, as well as a few others, Aurelio Jaglabash, and how will you watch North Carolina tomorrow night?
Andrew, that's the elusive three-part question. We've never had that before. Well done on that. That's amazing.
Ibis would be proud.
Yeah, you won up the Ibis. All right, let me work through this for a sec. Okay, the flight was crazy. I don't even know what day it is, but I'm going on fumes, and it's a positive type of fumes that you're going on. You know, when I'm at the World Cup draw. You know, I'm not complaining right now about being tired. We're super excited. It was great just interacting with everyone and going to that coaches meeting and being involved, seeing how FIFA works with their events. They absolutely do a first-class job. So that's been great. You know, I'll have time to sleep when I get back. I'm not worried about it right now. Second question, I didn't have a chance to interact with Ali Dia, but, you know, I remember watching him at Bayern Munich and in his time in Germany, and a fantastic goal scorer, fantastic player. And just, you know, Iran in general, I think is going to be a great challenge for us. I'm a little bit nervous that, you know, the public or the media may take Iran lightly, but it's not a team to take lightly. It's going to be a good opponent. So overall, it'll be a strong group. When you add that European team to it, it's going to be a well-rounded group, and it's going to be difficult to advance. But that's a positive, because I think everyone's going to be battling. And like I said, I think it will come down to the last game. The last part of the question is, you know, I'm pretty sure, I'm positive I'm going to be flying during the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase the internet Wi-Fi, and I'm going to try to get the game on there. And if I can't get it, I'm just going to be following the score ticker. And then when I land, they'll have won, and then I'll focus on Monday night, watching the game live, Monday night, the final.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you, Gregg. We will be right back with Weston McKinney.
Tell Weston I said hi, guys.
En la línea de juego con Juan Pablo Parril, aquí tendrás análisis sobre los eventos deportivos, las probabilidades y tendencias del deporte, como la Liga MX, NBA, NFL, hockey de Estados Unidos y Canadá, y grandes ligas. De lunes a viernes, en punto de las 12 del día, Par Sports. Par Sports presenta Set para Par Sports. Aquí encontrarás toda la información del mundo del tenis. Te esperamos todos los martes en punto de las 5 p.m., horario de México. De la mano de Constanza Banzini y Julio Ray. Fútbol de cuates. Conoce todas las noticias de la Liga MX. Como resultado, el mejor de la tabla, pronósticos de la siguiente jornada y los protagonistas más relevantes. De la mano de Sebastián González, Fabián Luján, Martín Álvarez, Luis Miguel Íñiguez y Paulo Guevara. Todos los lunes y jueves en punto de las 20 horas. Horario de México. Par Sports. En área chica encontrarás las noticias y reportajes a nivel nacional e internacional de los deportes como el fútbol americano, lo último de la NBA, hockey de Estados Unidos y Canadá. Presentado por Octavio Rivero. En punto de las 13 horas. Horario de México. De lunes a viernes. Por Par Sports. Par Sports presenta Cuarto Round, conducido por Cristian Goulet, Gustavo Sagaón. Novedades del mundo de las artes marciales mixtas. técnicas del día a día, análisis de las últimas peleas y las que están próximas, entrevistas a las estrellas del hoy y del mañana y opiniones de resultados de las peleas próximas. Todos los jueves, 9 p.m., horario de México. Far Sports presenta La Jiribilla, todo sobre el béisbol. Te comparten Alex Cervera y Aaron Schroeder Trujillo. Entrevistas con jugadores, directivos y relacionados con este deporte. Todos los lunes y viernes, 10 p.m., horario de México.
All right, there's Weston.
Can you hear me?
I got you, buddy.
Why didn't you say what's up back?
I think because I had my computer on mute.
Well, I said what's up.
What's up, man? We are here with Weston McKinney, and we will get straight to your questions. And we will start with Leander Sherlockins.
Hi, Weston. How are you? Thanks for doing this. What do you remember about your time at Bradenton with Tyler and Christian, and how do you think it's shaped this team on your journey now to Qatar?
Well, I mean, I'm sure many of you guys know Christian didn't spend that much time there because he moved to Germany, obviously. Tyler, my memories are maybe not as beautiful as you guys think they are. Tyler was always called in place of me to go on trips. So, but we always had a great bond between all of us. And I think we all, at that time, didn't know that the future and where we are now would be where we are. We talk about it all the time now as well, you know, just thinking back, like I got cut from residency and Tyler was called in every once in a while. Christian was doing his thing over in Germany. So it's like we all had kind of 3 different paths, but all in the same mission at the same time. So it's pretty amazing to see where we're at now and the bond that we've built so far.
Next would be Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Hey, Weston, how's it going, man?
Good, you?
Good, good. Greg also said what's up before he left, by the way, for continuing with the what's up part. But just Tyler was talking the other day about how even though you weren't with the team, like you were constantly in communication, how you were FaceTiming them before games and staying in with those guys. And obviously that's something that's part of this group is the friendship and the staying together. So I just kind of wanted to know what today was like for you guys as you all kind of watched from wherever you were and figured out what this next step was. You know, was it FaceTimes? Was it group chats? How did you guys kind of enjoy this experience and kind of enjoy it together?
No, I mean, we have a group chat of, you know, with the U.S. national team and practically every player is in it, whether they're there now or have been in it before. And I think, you know, we're just all excited. We're all looking forward to it. We're all, you know it's going to be a challenge, but that's something that we've always, you know, embraced. And that's something that we've always, you know, been able to do is face diversity. So the thing is that we're just looking forward to being in camp together again before the World Cup starts. Obviously, it's going to be a short time period, but I think it's something that all the guys are up for a challenge and we're ready to face.
Next will be Grant Wall.
Hey, Wes, it's good to see you. What are your thoughts about the 2 specific opponents that you know here, England and Iran?
What? Repeat that again. Sorry.
So what are your thoughts on the 2 specific opponents that you know of in your group now, England and Iran?
I mean, I think everyone really knows a lot about England and what they have to offer and their roster and the players that they have and the caliber of them. I mean, we all know what we're up against and we all are pretty familiar. Some players play with them in England. Some players play against them in England. Some play against them someplace else. So we kind of are familiar in terms of, you know, what our opponents are going to look like. And as far as Iran, we don't know much about them. We don't know many players and we've never played them. At least I've never played them. So it's definitely going to be interesting because those are the tricky games in tournaments like this where, you know, you have a team that you're playing for the first time. It can be a beneficial thing as well because they haven't played against you. They don't know, the players' tendencies. They don't know what everyone is like in person and in live. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think, it's something that the coaching staff and the players are going to have to sit down before and do a lot of research on and gather information as much as we can before going into that game. So that's it's all about being prepared.
Next will be Jeff Carlisle.
Thanks, Michael. Hello, Weston. I saw your interview with Fox Sports where you said you thought you'd be back by the end of April. I was wondering if you could define being back for me. Is that back playing games? Is that just back to full training? And also, do you anticipate taking part in the Nations League?
I think for me, when I, speak in terms of being back in April, in my head, I would assume that would be back playing, or at least minimum training fully with the squad. And that's a goal that I've set for myself. Obviously, there's many factors and many things that go into play here, and many things that, you have to overcome still. But that's my goal right now. And from what I've seen and how I've been progressing, it seems pretty realistic. So if that's the case, the ideal, journey for me right now would to be back by April, play a couple of games with Juventus before the season ends, and then, jump and fly straight over to Nations League.
Next will be Paul Tenorio.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Wes. You talked about the familiarity with these England national team players, and when Gregg first took over, he talked about changing the perception of this U.S. men's national team in the world, but also in this country. You guys individually that are playing at big clubs, you may have started to do that, of how people think about American soccer players, but this will be a massive stage at the World Cup against a team that a lot of American soccer fans will know the players from the Premier League. Do you look at it as an opportunity to influence the way people think about how much the game has grown here in the U.S.?
I think there's multiple benefits of playing this a game against England, especially just because it's like you said, it's the biggest stage in soccer that you can have, and to play them in a World Cup and to be playing against players that people know, and it's something that you can take a step forward in your player growth and making yourself more known, and also just making the team more respected, more looked at, more believed in, I think, and that's what the goal that Gregg set out to accomplish when he took over. And that's something that's always reiterated whenever we go into camp is change the way the world views American soccer. And I think there's no better place and no better time to be able to do that.
We'll go to Sanjay.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Wes. Wes, to go off Paul's question about the England game, the timing of it's interesting, right? So you grew up in Texas. You talked about how you could have been a football player, and Dallas is obviously known for the Cowboys Thanksgiving tradition. You guys are playing England the day after Thanksgiving, on Black Friday. Could you talk about how cool you think that is and what it means for the visibility of the game? Going off that last question. Thank you.
I think it's kind of a bit similar of what I said for the last question. It's definitely going to be one that's going to catch a lot of people's eyes. It's definitely going to be a game that people are going to watch. And I think it's a great opportunity for just the federation and us as players, and, just to be able to go out there and play against such a big historic team that is obviously, it's not a secret that they're one of the favorites to win it. So I think we're definitely looking forward to that, and we're definitely, have the desire to go out there and show that, we're not afraid. We're not we don't, belittle ourselves just because we're playing against England. So I think you'll definitely be able to see, some other sides of players maybe as well. There's going to be a lot asked from everyone that's involved in that game. So I think it's something that will be a good show for everyone to watch and a good game for us to play.
We'll go to Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you, Michael. Wes, I'm curious about the fact that, well, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that you already know about England because of many, many reasons besides playing there. What's more difficult for you guys as players and even the whole team to face, even with the quality of players that England is going to bring to the World Cup, facing England or unknown teams like Iran or perhaps Ukraine, Scotland, who knows, Wales? Is it different? Is it more difficult when you don't know that much about the team?
I can only speak from personal experiences. As an individual player, for me, I like it whenever I play against players that I don't know and they don't know me, just because I feel like I have an upper hand on it. In a sense of, they don't know my tendencies, they don't know my abilities. If you look at me and you don't see video or nothing, you're not going to mark me on a corner. You're going to leave me alone. So it's a double-edged sword. It's one of those things that can play out in your benefit, and it can also not play out in your benefit because you also don't know their tendencies. You don't know how they play. You don't know which players have speed, which players are good one-on-one, which has a long shot. So it's kind of like you say, we play against England. If you don't know the team personally, you know them by playing with them on FIFA or something. So it's definitely something that can work out in our benefit, and it's something that could also not. So I think we're ready for it, and we'll definitely take advantage of the obstacles that we have and the opportunities we have in those games.
All right, we have Christian Pulisic standing by. So thanks, Wes. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too. See you guys. Team.
En la línea de juego con Juan Pablo Parril, aquí tendrás análisis sobre los eventos deportivos, las probabilidades y tendencias del deporte, como la Liga MX, NBA, NFL, hockey de Estados Unidos y Canadá, y grandes ligas. De lunes a viernes, en punto de las 12 del día, para Sports. Para Sports presenta Set para Para Sports. Aquí encontrarás toda la información del mundo del tenis. Te esperamos todos los martes en punto de las 5 p.m., horario de México. De la mano de Constanza Banzini y Julio Ray. Fútbol de cuates. Conoce todas las noticias de la Liga MX. Como resultado, el mejor de la tabla, pronósticos de la siguiente jornada y los protagonistas más relevantes. De la mano de Sebastián González, Fabián Luján, Martín Álvarez, Luis Miguel Íñiguez y Paulo Guevara.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I think it's a great draw. Of course, playing against England is exciting. It was funny, first call I get is from Mason on my team, and we're already, talking, excited, looking forward to the game. So it's obviously, a big team, and I know a lot of these guys, but I think it's going to be a really nice matchup and something that we're definitely excited about.
Next will be Nancy Armour from USA Today.
Hey, Christian, thanks for taking the time for this. You guys will have really just about a week between when you're released from your clubs to when you guys have the first game. How much of a challenge is that? And what are you going to need to do in June and September to kind of compensate for that?
Yeah, I think things are obviously a bit different. With the World Cup going to be in the winter this year. We're going to do our best to get in the best shape as possible and use those windows, like you mentioned, to get the guys together and train and get ourselves as well prepared as we can. I think all national teams are in the same boat. That's how it's not going to be easy for anyone to just come in and play, but I think that's what makes it so exciting. So just doing the best we can, preparing, and everyone just hopefully excelling at club level as well, and just getting ready for that main event.
Next will be Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Christian, thanks for doing this. Do you remember when you were 11 watching the 2-10 game against England? Where were you? And did you ever allow yourself then to think ahead that one day you could be playing against England in a World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely watching the game. I don't even remember it too well, to be honest. It feels like a long time ago. But yeah, of course, it was a dream of mine to play in a World Cup. I never expected or anything. I never expected anything, but to be in this position now and having a big game, playing England in a World Cup, it just makes me smile. I'm just excited for it. So I think we all are, and yeah, just counting down the days, really.
Next will be Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Christian. You alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what's been some of the banter like with your club teammates so far in terms of playing England? And on a different note, what, if anything, do you know about Iran and how interesting a challenge do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I only just spoke to a couple of them on the phone. Just laughing. We're excited. I mean, we were good friends, good teammates, and it'll be interesting to play against them in a World Cup, of course, as you can imagine. And yeah, as far as Iran, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the team, but it's a World Cup team who qualified, and they're going to be well prepared, I'm sure. And I think it's going to be a good test for us as well. So yeah, I believe is that our first game of the tournament? I think it'll be.
The first game will be against the playoff team.
Okay. Yeah. Well, either way, it's going to be a good challenge. Any team you play in a World Cup is going to be a good one.
Next will be Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Christian, for doing this. Appreciate it. Going back to England, just curious how much extra motivation there is. If you don't do well in that game, you're gonna hear about it for a long time. Playing in that country from your teammates, all that stuff. How much extra does that bring to the match? Thanks again.
I don't think that's what brings extra. I think a World Cup match for our country is all we need, no matter who it's against. I'm not going to be thinking about that really at all. It's going to be a good test either way. So we're going to give it all, and hopefully we'll be, on the right end of that time.
Next will be Graham Wall.
Hey, Christian. Thanks for doing this. Sometimes over the years at World Cups, the U.S. has been one of the last teams to play their first game. And this time y'all are playing on the first day of the tournament. And I'm wondering if you have any preference or how that will impact how you view things from the start.
I mean, to be honest, the sooner the better for me. I mean, I think it'll be good to play right as the tournament starts. And yeah, like I said, I'm just counting down the days. So I guess the sooner the better. I don't really mind. I'm just looking forward to it.
Next would be Paul Tenorio.
Hey, Christian, on that note of just kind of looking forward to it, I wonder, have you kind of gone through stages of realization as the days have gone on, right after the game, getting on the plane, getting home, now watching the draw, that you're playing in a World Cup, that you're this close to playing in a World Cup? What has it been like for you to kind of experience all of it and to be able to watch the draw, calling your buddies that you play with on who's playing whom, and just kind of be able to maybe soak in the moment a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had time to soak it in a bit. I mean, qualifying was an incredible feeling. It was really nice to go get the job done in that last window, and now that's a big sigh of relief. And yeah, now just thinking about it, I mean, you can probably hear me. I'm just excited. Obviously, I've said 100 times, and it's going to be a fun year in the build up to that. Preparing, and obviously have a lot of club obligations too that's going on. So just focusing on that really at the moment. And yeah, we're allowed to be excited, and hopefully the time will fly by.
Next will be Katia Costarena.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Christian. You, of course, play in England. You know the atmosphere. I was reading one of the headlines from the British press, and they are calling the draw England's American dream, playing into the drama, bringing the heat. And it's not the first time that they've done it in the past. So just wanted to get your thoughts and just what you make of that build up to the match and what it will mean.
I don't know. I'm not like maybe necessarily looking at just that match like people are making it sound. I don't know. We need to be ready for all the games in the World Cup. Like you said, it's a headline. It's what people like to do. Creates noise, makes just people more interested. But I'm not looking at it like that. We're going to be ready to play. They're going to be ready to play, and it's going to be a battle. So.
Next will be Isabel Barker.
Hi, Christian. Thanks so much for your time. I heard you had a bit of a whirlwind 48 hours getting back from the World Cup qualifiers to London. I heard you had a bit of a rush to get the plane back here, and then now you've got to play Brentford as well. Just how are you feeling after that? Have you got a bit of jet lag before the game? But yeah, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it was a crazy last couple of days for sure. Being down in Costa Rica, getting the job done, qualifying, flying right back, and now it's about recovering and getting ready for what's going on at club level. And yeah, I'm feeling healthy. I'm obviously a bit tired, but working on that, and we'll continue to get rest and yeah, try to be ready for these next games.
Next will be Jeremy Langdon.
Yeah, hi, Christian. Of course, you know the power of the Premier League. How realistic do you think are England's World Cup chances? Do you see them as potential winners?
I'm not really worried about that too much at the moment, to be honest with you. That's our opponent, and we're gonna do our best to face them. It's more worried about what our team is gonna do, to be honest, is where my focus is at and where the team's focus is at.
We have Tyler Adams waiting, so we'll take one more, and it's Daniel Nora from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Christian. How are you? I'm just wondering, now that you know your rivals in the group stage, what kind of friendlies are you imagining in the next months?
It's tough to say. I think they'll schedule friendlies that they feel are going to get us best prepared. Potentially similar teams, and maybe in some of the regions that we're playing, or yeah, I'm interested to see as well. I think we'll do a good job and prepare as best we can for our competition.
Thanks, Christian. We'll be right back with Tyler Adams.
En la línea de juego con Juan Pablo Parril, aquí tendrás análisis sobre los eventos deportivos, las probabilidades y tendencias del deporte, como la Liga MX, NBA, NFL, hockey de Estados Unidos y Canadá, y grandes ligas. De lunes a viernes.